Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 257. 2-081. What a godlike reason. After hearing the apothecary's answer, Klein was unable to control the changes in his expression despite being a clown. Fortunately, he was wearing an iron mask over his face. The apothecary didn't notice the reactions Klein and Eye of Wisdom had, and he began to let his hair down. That's why I really like Backland. There are a lot of prostitutes prowling the streets, hanging outside music halls, theaters, waiting in the streets and alleys. They're either professionals or working part-time. They were originally maidservants or workers, each with different flavors. It's said that in places in the West Borough, bankrupt aristocratic ladies might occasionally appear. That's really something to look forward to. Klein nudged the iron mask that covered his face upwards and quickly changed the topic. Did your teacher have any objections to your choice? The apothecary shook his head slightly. No, he just kicked me out of the damn door after teaching me all the knowledge in the field of herbs, telling me to roam the world and experience life. Damn it, he didn't even tell me where to find the next potion ingredients. At this point, the apothecary looked at Klein and added, If you know where to obtain Spring of the Elves marrow crystals, please do tell me. I'll pay you for it. Of course, you can also first buy it, and then sell it to me for a higher price. You're a lucky guy. Who knows, you might help fulfill my wish. All right, Klein casually agreed. He then asked thoughtfully, When that happens, can I use it to exchange for the potion formula for apothecary? From his point of view, an apothecary was very useful as support. He could use it to groom helpers. The apothecary, who wasn't considered too fat, quickly shook his head and said, No way! I can only teach my students. Is this a rule of the life school of thought? He might have made an oath with some secret existence as a witness. Klein wasn't surprised. At this moment, the apothecary let out a laugh. But I can tell you where you can get the apothecary formula. It's right here in Backland. Brilliant. Klein was pleasantly surprised. Realizing that Eye of Wisdom was about to send him off, he hurriedly asked, Mr. Apothecary, do you have any medication to treat mental disorders and other problems? Klein was acting for Miss Bodyguard, to make her feel more assured, having been slightly influenced by the true creator and becoming a potential lunatic, that he was desperately trying to find a cure. Yes, there's a sedative, 10 solely for one. I'll bring you 4 in the next gathering. Trust me, this is definitely much more useful than the ones in the hospitals. I've added some materials with spirituality. The apothecary replied without hesitation. How expensive? In the underground market at Tingen, the number of sedatives that originated from the hospitals ranged from 1 to 2 solely, while the variety that leaked from the Nighthawks, mandated punishers, and machinery hive mind ranged from 4 to 5 solely. As this thought flashed through his mind, Klein put on a show, looked at Eye of Wisdom, and said, Dear sir, may I attend the next gathering? Yes, your last 2 performances are proof of your goodwill. Young lad, watch out for the Backland Morning Post daily. When there's an advertisement for the purchase of goods by the Ernst firm on the 5th page, it means that there would be a meeting here at 8 o'clock the next evening. The strength and the frequency of the knocking is based on the prices listed. The first number is the number of heavy strikes. The second number is the number of light strikes. The third number is the number of long pauses, and the fourth is the number of short pauses. The rest are meaningless, Eye of Wisdom said with a nod. After describing the information, he sighed and said, The lives of Beyonders who are either official or part of an organization aren't as nice as you imagine. On the one hand, we have to keep secrets, avoid the officials, and at any time, we have to maintain a cautious and careful state. On the other hand, we have to fight against the possibility of losing control and madness. Too many of our kind have died because of these 2 matters. Even if we successfully evade the officials' notice and avoid losing control and going crazy, we would still fall into the predicament of lacking ingredients and the inability to find items we want or obtain sufficient knowledge. I organized such a gathering to get everyone to help each other. Unfortunately, this is an era of scarce mysteries. Many Beyonder ingredients are rarely seen. Yes, but I have Mr. Hangman who knows the coordinates of some of the primitive islands, and City of Silver's the Sun who is constantly fighting against the various monsters in the depths of the darkness. I can rely on them to obtain some of the Beyonder ingredients. Klein politely stood up with his back bent as he bowed to Eye of Wisdom. Your character is admirable. After sitting down again, Klein suddenly remembered something and asked after some deliberation. Gentlemen, do you have any mystical items? The kind that Black Snake sold me, but ones without too serious negative effects. I wish to have some sort of ability to protect myself. His plan was to find something that caught his interest, determine the price, and then determine the target accordingly. However, I don't have any money right now, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't have any in the future. Can I make an inquiry about the price without money? Klein silently added in his heart. The apothecary spread out his hands, indicating that he didn't have any, and even if he did, he wouldn't sell them. Eye of Wisdom chuckled and said, I do have some, but I don't know what you would like to buy. Give me an approximate range. Some. He's most likely a savant pathway beyonder who relies on external items. Klein didn't hide his envy as he said, something stronger than me. Not something that improves my combat skills. It's best if it has some mystical powers. He didn't go into details so as to maintain his image as a newcomer. Eye of Wisdom smiled and said, I have an item that suits your requirements. Its former code name was 2-081. 2-081? Klein asked, puzzled. His puzzlement was just a disguise on the surface, but on the inside, he was very shocked. Is this a sealed artifact that leaked out from the Chinese gate of the Church of Evernight? Klein didn't expect to see a familiar code name here. Eye of Wisdom casually explained simply. Many mystical items have rather obvious side effects that can cause certain harm. Therefore, the 7 Orthodox churches would seek them out and seal them. They're called sealed artifacts and are distinguished using numbers as code names. Over a long period of debate and exchanges, the 7 churches formed a uniform naming convention. It labels the different danger grades with 0, 1, 2, and 3. Among them, 0 is the most dangerous. Rumors say that some are terrifying items that can destroy countries or even the world. The 7 Orthodox churches will exchange information regarding grade 0 and grade 1, telling each other which ones they possess. Therefore, grade 0 and grade 1 code names won't be repeated. Grade 2 and grade 3 are arranged by their respective churches, so different churches might have the same code name. Klein had long known about the general situation within the Nighthawks, but he was puzzled by something. Information regarding grade 0 and grade 1 sealed artifacts is exchanged. Wouldn't that be disclosing major secrets? It will allow the other churches to know how many hidden cards they have. Of course, this could also be seen as a form of strategic deterrence, to avoid direct conflict between the 7 churches. Klein considered the possible reasons. Yes. Although I'm unable to explain the reason for doing that, it has indeed happened. Legend has it that during the end of the 4th epoch or the beginning of the 5th epoch, the 7 churches came to an agreement. Eye of Wisdom said at an unhurried pace. My 2-081 was obtained from the Church of the God of Knowledge and Wisdom. It allows you to understand and comprehend many things. Even an enemy's beyonder powers can be rapidly identified, allowing me to know of their strengths and weaknesses. I'll also have a chance at being able to mimic them. The stronger the opponent, the higher the chance of failure. Of course, even success would definitely result in a huge difference from the original. That sounds very strong. Proof that knowledge is power? In the end, will there be a situation where omniscience is equal to omnipotence? I retract my previous judgment. Old Mr. Eye of Wisdom might not be an appraiser. His identification of items might have relied on sealed artifact 2-081. Klein clicked his tongue silently as he asked with interest. So, how much would I need to buy it? What flaws does it have? It will keep you in a state where your mind is churning at high speeds. Once it exceeds the time limit, you'll become a retard. Eye of Wisdom replied simply without providing enough details. At this moment, the apothecary beside him muttered, Perhaps your brain has already been damaged. You keep talking about your collection. Sooner or later, someone will rob you and kill you. Sir, your persuasions are always so repugnant. Klein couldn't help but lampoon. Eye of Wisdom laughed and said, How do you know that I'm not saying it on purpose to make greedy people attack me? Yes, it's like the entrapment law once described by Emperor Roselle. After the laughter stopped, he patted the armrest of his sofa and sighed. As a person who loves collecting things, it's excruciating not being able to flaunt my collection to others. He then looked at Klein. I'm sorry. 2-081 isn't for sale. It's my best collection, and back then, I spent £6,800 to buy it. A sealed artifact at this level can cost from £4,000 to £20,000 and is determined by its effects and negative side effects. However, most of time, they can't be bought with money. Then why did you say so much? Klein controlled the twitching of his mouth. Seemingly sensing his reaction, Eye of Wisdom chuckled and said, What I really wish to recommend are 2 items. The first is a brooch. It can allow you to ward off spirits and purify them, as well as use a portion of the spells in the Sun domain. The flaw is that as long as you wear it, you will never feel coolness. You will forever be stuck in the warm summer of the South. The other is a hat that can change shapes. Wearing it allows you to move freely underwater for at least half an hour and allows you to use some water or wind domain spells. The flaw is that you will desire water. Once you walk on land, you will gradually weaken. The prices of similar items range from £1,500 to £3,500, and sometimes, even if you raise the price several-fold, they aren't necessarily for sale because they rarely appear. It took me more than 3 decades to collect a few. Klein nodded slightly and said, I'll think about it, and I'll make the decision during the next gathering. At this point, he deliberately smiled and said, Besides, I don't have that much money right now.